Ladies and gentlemen, children of ages, welcome back to your Mr. Video Game live super show brought to you by Dead Sun Entertainment. Hell yeah, everyone, welcome back. We've been gone for the last few weeks, just chilling and whatnot, sitting on our fat asses, getting more and more plump for the festive fairies to come take us and serve us to our masters. But we're here today to talk about video games. That's right. Best of the year this December 30th, 2019. Of course, I'm Slacker Kite. With me, people that I didn't really give an intro for today, but hey, why not? It's Lady Merowyn and Wonder Boy.
We are going out with a bang this year, man.
Who needs an intro when you got all these years of games to look at? So many years, people! What's up? I haven't been on this fucking microphone in 3 weeks. Y'all been watching Game Awards without me. Y'all been doing all this other stuff without me. I am fucking lit. I swear to God. I'm just gonna go ahead right now. 2 of the games that were nominated, that are on my list, were nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and the wrong one won. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go and throw that out there right now. I've been bottling that up for weeks. It's out there now. Jesus Christ, this is cathartic as fuck. I missed this.
Yeah, this is the episode of the year where we get to pat ourselves on the back for having such great opinions, and some people listen to us and some people don't. It's how it goes, right?
If you ask the right people on the internet, I do that all the time. So,
since we don't have news articles to show you, I'm just going to switch to me playing Slay the Spire, because why the fuck not? We're just going to jerk ourselves off anyway, so...
and Brian, I have to say, I need like a miniature version of you to keep in my pocket or sit on my desk at work, just to like keep me hyped throughout the day.
I am 5'7". I am already miniature. I will fit on your desk. I will sit there and just scream about dumb shit all day.
All right, so today's show, we're not going to go over our normal news, and probably glad that we're not anyway, because fuck all if there's much of the way of news this week or month or year or whatever. So we're just going to start talking about our favorite games of the year. Now, the question is, which one of us actually goes first?
Real quick, before we get to games, I just have to say, you don't want to talk about that hot news story about how they're trying to revamp Anthem again?
Wait, again?
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Sorry, I don't mean to jump into news on our Game of the Year show here, but like also, yeah, they're taking another shot at Anthem apparently because the 25 people that are still playing it really want that thing souped up.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry. So what are they going to do?
Salty. Oh, God. I don't know. That's the thing. It's still in rumor base right now. It's still like it's nothing confirmed. It's just been like one of those like reports that are out there from credible people, from credible outlets. So we'll see what happens. I just know that was like I've been chomping at the bit to get on that, and the fact that we didn't have a show last week where I could rail into it. I needed to get it out of my system. I'm sorry.
Because Anthem, what a good fucking game. Am I right, people? Am I right?
We'll talk about Anthem later. I'm sure that's going to come up.
All right.
Anyway, who wants to start?
I think Coop should decide. Coop, you've got Slacker Kite, Lady Merowyn, and Wonder Boy to choose from. Who should be the first one to speak? It's a lot to put on one person.
That's a hefty decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a hefty boy, so I'm able to give out these hefty decisions.
Fair. I don't know if Koopa's struggling under the pressure
Oh
that
no!
you...
No, he has to think about 3 people. 2 of them he doesn't even know that well.
Pick a number 1 through 25. 8.
Sure.
13.
17.
What'd you say, Linz?
13.
I said 8. Wonder Boy said 8.
Wonder Boy goes first.
All right, yeah. Keep this fucking train going. Number 1. This is in no particular order. This is just I think we're doing our top 5 games of the year, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so no particular order here, but the first one on my list is Disco Elysium. This game should have won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, as I alluded to at the beginning of this show. But Disco Elysium is a game that I know it's not for everyone, but this game is exactly for me in every way. Like from the living nature of the narrative is so engrossing, and it builds these characters that actually feel real, three-dimensional in a lot of ways, even though most of them do default to like some like general form of shittiness. But I mean, that's just kind of people. And then you also have like a very engrossing murder mystery narrative that just leads to all these different other places with the side quests and your own story of trying to figure out who you are as this police detective that has no memory of who they are, and trying to figure that out as you go through through the missions. In a way, like it helps you like kind of craft your own vision of yourself and whether you can stay true to that. And like just the writing in this game is amazing. I am a sucker for a game that knows its way around a pen, and no other game stood up to Disco Elysium this year in that instance. I know there are plenty of other great contenders. I know like Outer Limits, or maybe that's not the right game. Sorry, that's not the right name. Outer Wilds.
Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds. That's the thing. God, those 2 games trip me up like all year.
So you're
Jesus
saying
Christ.
that it's hugely forgettable and no one should remember the game.
No, I'm not saying that because I'm an Obsidian stan and I think that game is pretty good. But that's really the only game that I think stands up to that even comes close to Disco Elysium in terms of like the writing of it. And like I don't know. I cannot gush enough about the writing. Is what sold it for me. The writing is what put it on this list, honestly. And it's also the reason why I keep coming back to it. It's superb. I would suggest if anybody is interested in like very very well written games that help you like kind of meander through the gray area of fucking humanity in a way that actually feels real to some of the atmospheres that we're in right now, like in a good way, not a bad way, like not a terrible way. I would suggest Disco Elysium is a game to pick up. Like I cannot say enough good things about it.
So let me ask this question. If you were to play the game in such a way that were to go against like everything that you are as a person, let's say, would you think you would feel the same?
I mean, like in what, like?
Because you
like,
can play the game
personally?
like a giant asshole. I know that.
Oh
much.
yeah. I mean, you can play any game like that. Like I've played, like let's put it this way. I went back and I finished Fallout 3. 100% in Fallout 3, playing as my normal self, like my normal moral self. I went back and started playing it again as a complete shitheel because like narrative games allow you to do that regardless. I think that this game has more of an effect on the person than playing games like maybe Fallout 3 or other narrative driven games super shittily. And I think that it definitely plays into the play style as well, because you know the closer you go into like the shitty realms of your own mind, the more you're like beefing up those stats. So like you become more akin to being a shitheel the more you are a shitheel in some way.
Fair enough. So you think like it can amplify who you are as far as the game is concerned when you decide to go down certain paths.
It can amplify how you play it. It doesn't necessarily amplify you. I guess you as in like in the person you are playing in the game.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. It amplifies the traits that you take on in a way that I feel like if you go too far down a certain path, it's hard to come back and um, build up other stats that are not akin to the personality type that you have been playing your character as, which is another reason why I love this game so much. There's a ton of replayability. Now, granted, every time you play through the game, it's like 60 to 80 hours,
Yeah.
but it's there for you if you want to go back and experience that. You want to experience the other paths you could go down. Like it presents you a multitude of ways to play it, and I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got for us? What other joys and wonders do you have for us today?
Oh, we're just gonna go through all 5 of them.
Why not? Let's just go we'll do this person's top 5, and then move to the next. We get a full sampling then of Wonder Boy in one move.
All right, cool. Well, I guess number 2 on my list is something that we've talked about a lot recently, and it just keeps coming up.
Okay.
In some way or form. You didn't get my pun, you butthole. Anyway, sorry. Death Stranding.
Ooh.
Death Stranding is also on my list.
So you'll actually put Death Stranding on your top games of the year. Bold choice.
I did because yes, the story is heavy-handed. The metaphors are basically brick walls that you are forced to slam your face into until you get it, and then they keep slamming your face into them more. There are problems with this game. There are problems with the writing. There's problems with some of the characterization. There's problems with how Hideo Kojima understands asexuality. But all that being said, the overarching story in the game did hit me emotionally. It did. I did read into the message there. And I'm gonna be frank. Like I enjoyed the gameplay of it for the most part. Like there were definitely some. Look, delivering packages, especially through those mountains, are some of the most frustrating times I've spent with a video game this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, there was a sense of accomplishment in getting through all of that for me. I felt very confident figuring out different ways to move around things and like feeling the malleability of the world, the play style that the tools were presenting me. I really dug the quote unquote walking simulator on steroids aspect of it in a lot of ways, which honestly, looking at my game of the decade, I think that explains some things about the types of games that I like. So yeah, no, Death Stranding, it wasn't a home run, but it was a solid double. Like I liked it a lot, and it's a game that I've still been going back to and like running missions here and there, just running deliveries, just kind of getting some extra like finality backstory stuff that's there in the post game. Yeah, I don't know if I want a sequel to it. I don't think there needs to be a sequel to it, and I say that because Kojima has heavily teased that. But no, like for what it is, like I really enjoyed it, and I think that there's a message in it that you are forced to learn, but it's a good one if you can just look past the way that it's delivered in some ways. Moving on though, number 3 on my list, Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Really? So you'll put Fire Emblem up there? All right.
I did. I went full anime this year. No, like, I really liked Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I have not played a ton of other Fire Emblem games just because I have not really had the consoles to play them, because I know they've mostly been on like Nintendo handhelds. I know there was one for GameCube that I'd never really touched, even though I was a solid GameCube stan for a long time. But Three Houses was a revelation for me in that way. Like for the longest time, I was just the dude who was like, "Oh yeah, Martha's in Smash Bros. Fire Emblem," but like no, like this game won me over. I'm a sucker for a great tactics game. This is a great tactics game. With plenty of weight to your decisions with the permadeath there, but also it allows for new. It's one of those. It's a Fire Emblem game that allows for new players to kind of latch on to it and figure out what it's all about in terms of the play style, because it does allow you to turn permadeath off and kind of tailor your gaming experience there just from playing the game to your experience level. Like the first time I played through it, I'll admit I didn't play with permadeath on. I wanted to get my bearings and go through the story and not necessarily like not challenge myself, but I wanted to have a decent enough challenge while also feeling like I got everything out of the game, the story that I wanted to. Which, by the way, Black Eagle for life right here.
So you didn't feel turned off being somebody new to the whole series or anything?
No, not at all. I was very intrigued to jump into it, honestly. Like I felt like this was a perfect jumping in on point because, like, I'll be frank, I bought a Switch to play this game. I wanted to buy a Switch for a while, and I've been thinking about it for a while, but I finally bit the bullet because Three Houses came out. So, like, it was a system seller for me, and it was great. And then, of course, like Coop is saying in the chat, all of the anti-religion stuff in this game is fucking boss. The story in this game is outstanding. I love I have not found a character that was not somewhat endearing to me. The fact that this game will not let me romance Dedue makes me want to slap somebody. Dedue needs to be my fancy boy in an equal way, because there is some like covert racism in this game too. I want Dedue to be. I mean, Dedue's dark-skinned. Dedue and his people are looked down upon by the other people. I mean, what else are you going to interpret that as? Yes, but still, like, all of the characters in this game are great. The story is it pulls you in, but it's not so dense that you get lost in it like I think a lot of anime stories can do. There's definitely some plot holes here and there in the story, but like a lot of the themes in it like hit really close to home to me, as someone who might be pre-inclined to some anti-religion content. Thumbs up. So yeah, like, I really like this game. I think that it's a perfect like first Fire Emblem game for anybody who has been curious about the series but hasn't really found a good place to jump onto it yet.
All right.
Yeah. Number 4 for me is Apex Legends. I did not think that I was going to be putting a Battle Royale game on my top 5, but as the resident Battle Royale player of this show, Apex Legends is top of the pops for this genre for me.
I get too stressed playing Battle Royales.
I completely understand.
There is much squeaking and flailing and panicking and running away.
Yeah. And honestly, that's how I was with most Battle Royales. Like, I enjoy playing them, but, like, jumping into PUBG, that is such a high learning curve with how realistic they try and make that game that it can be very intimidating. Same but different with Fortnite in that adding the building mechanics into that thing makes it somewhat hard to penetrate whenever you're first getting into it in a lot of ways, because the building mechanics are so vital to survival if you ever want to try and get to the end of a game of Fortnite. I played both a good amount and enjoyed both, but they just did not hit me in the same way that Apex did. From like the characterization of stuff, like the fact that they gave me like straight up, like they gave me a gay dude that I could main that I fucking love playing. Shout out Gibraltar. Like Gibraltar main right here. I love it. And then you throw in like the fact that they're giving representation to other communities. Like, you know, they have a non-binary character in the game. All of the additional characters that they've added have been really fun in their not just how they look or how they act, but also in like their special skills that they bring into the thing. Granted, they bumbled their first season pass this year. They definitely bumbled that, but they've made good since then. And then just throwing all that aside, the game is so fucking fun to play. Like honestly, I played a lot of shooters growing up, and I felt like I grew out of them because they just all started being the same in a lot of ways, or they just didn't really entertain me as much. Apex brought all of that back. Apex made, like, I literally found myself playing Apex for like 5 hours straight and not realizing it. I haven't had that experience with a shooter since like Halo 2. So like, It's crazy. Like it sucked me back into a genre that I thought that I would never be like that into again. So in that aspect, Apex had to be on this list.
Do you think there's anything specific about the game just in itself that pulled you into it like that, or?
I think it's mainly the fact that one, I mean, it's a respawn joint, so like the shooting mechanics are spot on, and the mobility that they give your characters, it's all based off of the Titanfall world. So bring some of that Titanfall mobility into this game, and it just feels really good to move around in the world. But the shooting does not feel as like high tense, high anxiety as like a Call of Duty or a PUBG does. But it doesn't. It's a good. Someone else made this comparison. I can't remember who it was at the moment, but somebody made the comparison that it's basically the happy medium between Call of Duty and Overwatch. It's not as cartoony as Overwatch, and it doesn't have like as large of hitboxes as Overwatch characters do in that game. But it also is not the high anxiety like super quick reflex shooting that you have in Call of Duty, where like you basically whoever pulls the trigger first is the person who's going to like come out on top in a fight like that. Like it caters to more of an audience in that way, I think, and that's what there was a learning curve there, obviously, like any game like this, and there are people that are way fucking better than me at this game, like anything. But I feel like I'm actually able to compete in this game, and it's not just because the game is easier, but because like the style of the shooting is easier to grasp onto, as opposed to just being blanket an easier game to play.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then number 5 for me is the game that did win Game of the Year at the Game Awards this year. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Oh, Sekiro. Okay, so I love From Software stuff. I love
them to pieces. They've been around forever.
Yes, and I love the Souls games. I haven't played all of them, but I did play a good amount of Bloodborne and fell in love with that. That's the game that really made me. I played the original Dark Souls a lot, but the game that made me fall in love with their style of game was Bloodborne. And then taking that and putting it into this new setting where I love the feudal Japan setting. I love what they did with the characterizations of enemies based off of that, and some of the mythology behind it. And then couple that with this like stance bar system. I don't know the technical term for it necessarily, even if there is one, but like the combat system in that game, like it's one of those rare times where you're playing a game that challenges you to learn something about it in order to complete it, and you actually feel like you are learning as you go through it. It's not something that you could cheese your way through these fights. I cheese my way through some fights because that's just sometimes you just keep hacking, but it also like teaches you sequences from different bosses that play off of sequences later on with other bosses. Like it teaches you how to play. It never stops teaching you how to play the game in a way that actually feels like it connects with me, or it connected with me at least. I adore that game. I haven't played it in a while just because other stuff has come up, but that's a game the past 3 months, like at least once a week, I'm thinking like, I should boot up Sekiro again. But then I'm like, I got other stuff to do, but also Sekiro is there. Like it's just one of those things that it's never left my brain, and like I absolutely adore it for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, that is a good question from statement from Coop, but it's still a question. Some way. Do you feel like, because I've heard this a lot from people, do you feel like they've simplified the playstyle for that game, or do you feel like they've done more with it?
I don't think they simplified it necessarily. I think it's just a different style. It's like every time that they've branched off of like the Souls name, they've changed it up just enough to make it feel different or feel unique. Like you looked how like at Bloodborne where they took away the shields, so you had more of a like stick and move offensive style of play, but also it added different strategies into it. I think it's just a different. I think it's just honestly a different style of game, and I totally understand why people that fell in love with Dark Souls originally and still play that game would look at Sekiro and be like, this isn't for me. Like it's just, I think it's just objectively different in that way, while having some similarities that are pretty much in every From game. You know, that being said, like I found Sekiro's combat more engrossing than Dark Souls is at times. Also, I found Sekiro's storytelling way better than Dark Souls is at times. Like I love like the Dark Souls lore is super intriguing, but it is so hard to penetrate anything that game is trying to tell you about what's going on in that world. Sekiro is not like straight up just like telling you everything right off the front, and you have to like figure out shit for yourself in that game too, but it is nowhere near as obtuse as the Dark Souls series is about what it's trying to tell you. Especially when it comes to character builds too. I'm so glad they took out some of the super mysterious like character build stuff that they had in the original Dark Souls for this game as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Get you exactly what the fuck you want from a video game, and hey, get out if you don't want.
Exactly. I prefer Sekiro over Dark Souls. It doesn't mean I don't like Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm. They both can stand together in this world and enjoy each other, I suppose.
Exactly. So just to recap, my 5: Disco Elysium, Death Stranding, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Apex Legends, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. I guess should I say my honorable mentions?
Yeah,
or
go
should
for
we
it.
wait? Okay, just real quick. Hypnospace Outlaw. We talked about this game a while back. Basically, you are a mod on the like 90s era internet, fucking Lycos bullshit. That game has style coming out of its like every pore. I was gonna say butthole, but that's crass. It has style coming out of every single one of its pores. It's so fun just to like trail through the different websites in that game. Plus, like the story is pretty good too. I put Fire Pro Wrestling World on my honorable mentions simply because I know this game came out in 2017. I know it did. I know it did. But they released their Fire Promoter DLC, which allows you to run your own promotion in it, and I have played almost 1,000 hours of that. I love it. It is so good. It's not the best simulation, like promotion simulation thing in the world. It's not even probably the best one that you can add to this game, thanks to Carlzilla, the like Fire Pro mod god, and his match of the week stuff. But for what the package that is there, I absolutely love it, and I run it constantly. And then Resident Evil 2. You talk about like somebody actually coming in and reinventing a game that was already so fucking good and just making it that much fucking better. Capcom, where the hell did this come from? Like, this was such a surprise to me to have this come out and be as good as it was. I am so happy, and it makes me excited for what they're going to do with Resident Evil 3 now. I've just seen that.
I've heard nothing but positive out of Resident Evil 2. Now, I didn't play it when, when I was that age. So, wrong person to really look at it on its own merits, but still, damn.
I mean, it was my first Resident Evil game that I played, because it was the only one that ever released for Nintendo 64. So, like, knowing that they basically just remade what like that liquor scene in that game is like still embedded in the back of my head forever. Like, it's always gonna make me jump. And the fact that they remade it and made it better is fucking crazy to me, because that's not what Capcom does.
Rarely. We like it when they do, but they don't really do it as often as we'd like.
We like it when they do, but they've maybe done it twice. Like this, and then like the Resident Evil that they made for GameCube. Like, those are the only two ones that I can think of right now. But yeah, knocked it out of the park. Like, it was really good.
Alright, Lady Merwin, should we battle over who does the next 5?
I kind of like Coop's whole pick a number.
All right. We want to go back with that. I'll go with 13. Lucky number 13.
19, because we're at the end.
Sure, why not? Of course, Coop may not have come up with a number before we both said a number, so. Yeah!
I will settle the tie. I will settle the tie.
Okay,
Let me-
Wonder Boy,
Alright.
who do you want to see first?
Let me find a thing. Let me find a whatnot. Lens, go.
What's our split on this?
No split. I flipped a coin. You're good. Go.
Heads.
Sorry.
Heads.
I'm sorry. I'm being very, very abrasive tonight. I apologize. I do not mean to be this pushy. I'm just really excited.
I'm for it. Fuck that. Be pushy, you pushy.
It's
pushy
more
fuck.
so just me being like, Lens, go. I'm not trying to be that person. Go for it. Yes. God, no one roll for initiative. We'll all die.
Look, I've DM'd under, or Merwin has DM'd before me before. We don't need to go back down that road again.
Yeah, no, I'm a horrible DM. My players cry.
All of the murder.
But yes, if we're flipping tails, heads. Or flipping coins, I'm good.
I already flipped the
swear.
coin. It's your turn. I had it in my head. I flipped the coin and it landed on you, so you're good.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's do this. So I ranked mine because I like ranking things. So we'll start with my number 5 pick, and that's going to be Dicey Dungeons.
Really?
I'm a tabletop nerd. So you're going to give me a roguelite that lets me play with dice. Yes. All the yes. Gave me a lot of the same vibes as Slay the Spire. I'm going to warn you guys now, pretty much everything in my game of the year is indie. I have no-
Nothing wrong with
Fine.
that.
I've just got this thing against the AAA industry. But, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Dicey Dungeons is... I spent far too much time in this game.
I mean, you know as well as I do, I did enjoy Dicey Dungeons, but I didn't feel like it was as, repeatable as a lot of other roguelikes have been before. And, maybe that's just a me thing, but, I wanted to be able to do more.
I liked it because I could kind of just shut off my brain and run it on autopilot for a bit. So it was really good for days when I came home from work and I was just done. I didn't want to function anymore. I didn't want to have to think heavily anymore. I didn't want to have good reaction time. But I still wanted to play a game.
Fair enough, fair enough.
My number 4 is Armajet.
Of course.
They
I'm
came.
surprised not
it-
higher.
There's reasons.
Okay.
Love Armajet. They had their official global launch this year. Amazing company. The community is actually what ended up getting me affiliated on Twitch. It's a stellar game. The fact that it's got crossplay built in, Android, iOS, PC, and that it is literally a pick up and play 4v4 2.5D shooter.
Mhm.
It's so much fun. They've actually just added a new game mode, and I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. So I can't really comment on it, but just an awesome game by some awesome people. Great community. You don't get a lot of the toxicity that you see in a lot of online games. And yeah, I just can't say enough good about that one.
Fair
My
enough.
number 3 game was originally my honorable mention,
Mhm.
but I felt like it deserved a bit more attention. It's an indie game put out by one guy or girl called When the Darkness Comes. This game is not a game I recommend you play if you have any kind of mental health issues, particularly anxiety, depression, borderline personality disorder, or bipolar disorder, don't touch it. Watch a playthrough. Don't play it yourself. For people who do not have any kind of mental health disorder, play the damn game. It will give you so much insight into what those of us who do deal with mental health issues deal with on a daily basis. It is just, it cuts, and it cuts really, really deep. I've played through it, and I will say the very first thing once you get past your intro was like, oh my God, this is what I go through when I try to leave the house to go to work. Every single day. Like anytime I try to leave the house.
Mhm.
And it just puts you in that mindset of absolute anxiety of, oh my God, there are people, are they looking at me? Am I going to do something wrong? All I need to do is just go to this store. But they're looking at me, and I don't like this. And it is just so absolutely stellar. If you're insistent on playing with it and you suffer from anxiety or depression, have a friend sitting with you while you play.
You have some tea with you, I would suppose, right?
Yeah, the moral support would be really helpful.
Mhm.
It's a really hard play, but it is so completely worth it. It's not entirely a game per se, like it does have some gaming elements, but it's mostly an experience. But yeah, just you can tell that this is the one I've spoken the most about, that I feel very, very strongly about this game. Why is it free? Because it is an indie single person dev. Free on Steam, fairly short playthrough. Like you can probably rock through it in about 2 hours, if that.
Okay.
But it will hit hard. There are 2 endings. It'll become obvious when you get there. I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, it's definitely one of those games. On to lighter topics. My number 2 game for the year is Untitled Goose Game. Because, quite frankly, that is the most fun I have ever had playing an asshole in a game in my life.
You need to play a little bit more other games. Metal Gear is a great place to be an asshole.
Untitled Goose Game is it's stellar. There's so much that you can do in the game itself. Like the task list is super fun. And then once you finish the game, hang out after the credits, guess what? You get new bonus tasks. Go back and do more stuff. Terrorize the town more.
Keep
Oh,
going. Keep going.
Do
Okay.
it more. I haven't gotten to play any of those bonus tasks yet, but it's simultaneously hilarious and frustrating, and you can give your goose its own narrative. And I mean, like, if you're really imaginative, this game can be piss your pants hilarious.
Okay.
I was super happy to see it nominated for the Game Awards, even though there was no love. But the fact that it was nominated was stellar. And my number 1 game of the year is actually the one on this list that I've played the most recently, but recent play has really no bearing on it, and it's Superliminal.
Mhm.
It is just... I love the fact that it is a game of forced perspective and that you can't trust what you're looking at. You can't trust the way your own brain works all the way through it. Nothing's what it seems, and it's a fully fleshed out version of a proof of concept demo they did called the Museum of Simulation Technology. And the fact that they actually turned this into a fully fleshed out game, I mean, you can push through it and push through it hard in about 4.5 hours. But after you finish playing it, you're going to look at your entire world around you a little bit different.
Okay.
But the reason it's ranking so high is, I mean, Trav, you were with me for the full playthrough of that one.
It got in your head.
It did, and the whole ending, like the whole monologue and speech towards the end,
Mhm.
that is what hit it. That is what has put this at my absolute top game of the year.
Okay, fair. And I mean, I definitely watched you play it. While myself, I got annoyed with a couple of things in it. I also see exactly where you came from on a lot of it. So, yeah. Uh, I mean, the gameplay is definitely different from what I saw from anything that I think I've seen before, really.
I think it's best described literally as a mix between Stanley Parable and Portal.
Hmm.
And that really feels like it fits. It is just a blessed mindfuck in all of the best ways.
All right, I do guess that that does leave me with me, doesn't it?
I
Yep.
guess so. I can flip a coin.
Flip a coin and see if I go first or I go first, right?
Spoiler alert. Get it on.
All right. In fifth place, something that a lot of people will probably hear and go, "Huh, that's your fifth?" But honestly, yes. Ring Fit Adventure hit into my number 5, and I wholly didn't expect that because I just thought, oh, it's it's a goofy Nintendo product. It'll be like the Wii thing that you could exercise with the board.
The Wii Fit.
The Wii Fit, yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of garbage, but
More than kinda.
The fact they made the trainer a baddie in Smash Bros. Kind of sums up the Wii Fit.
yeah.
The Wii Fit wants to kill you.
Plus, being a nearly 400-pound man, the Wii Fit board never exactly worked properly for me in the first place. So that was always good. So I had no expectations when I bought into Ring Fit Adventures. I thought maybe it will be a fun one-time product that I can, fuck around with and go, oh boy, that was a thing that I did today. Let's move on to something else, guys. No, it starts off pretty basic, but as you go through the game, the RPG mechanics get a little bit deeper each time. It's never gonna be, a Fire Emblem as far as that goes, but, while you're working out, you're not exactly thinking the hardest or anything. The initial difficulty level it sets you on isn't that difficult, but it goes all the way up to 40, and I don't know who the fuck is playing on 40, some kind of asshole, but oh, there was, hey, we've got a new person. Thank you for joining the Dead Son. Plus it's just kind of addicting. You're playing through this happy-go-lucky universe where everything is smiles, sunshine, and getting fucking buff. And that's what everything is. You drink smoothies as your potions. You fight enemies by doing push-ups. Shit is hilarious and great. You are fighting a giant, meaty boy who stands in front of you, and the flavor text is, he is working out while he works out. It is beautiful. Everything about that game is just, whoever put it together is great. Ring Fit, yes, Ring Fit Adventure. That's my number 5 for the year, and I stand behind that statement. It was a lot of fun. I need to spend more time with it for damn sure. But, I've beat the first 5 or so levels of it so far, and it's just a joy every time I get back to it. It's the first time I can say in my life that I've worked out and enjoyed myself, sort of, that DDR time we had back in the early aughts. But number 4, I have to go with Link's Awakening Switch. I know this game is short as fuck, but holy God, that is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Of course, with it only being 12 hours long, they had a lot of time to sit down and put this game together and go, we're just going to make some cute shit, and we are going to make every single frame as adorable as possible. It is exactly, John Borg. It is an embodiment of the Game Boy aesthetic brought to you together now in 2019. I will say, I would completely understand if you are somebody without a whole lot of money in 2019, and let's face it, it's a Nintendo game. Nintendo is always going to charge you $60 for whatever the hell they put out, whether it's glorious or awful, and their prices never drop. So if you don't see yourself spending $60 on a 15-hour game, I get it. But for me, the $60 was completely worth the entry point.
It's one that's really interested me. That and Ring Fit are both reasons why I really want to switch. I got to tool with Ring Switch over the holidays at my sister's place. She got it as her Reddit Secret Santa gift. And oh my god, I wanted to die, and I only played one level, but it also occurred to me exactly how out of shape I am and that I need to fix this.
You're in better shape than I am. You can go for multiple mile walks. Through the snow.
Uphill,
both ways.
In my pajamas.
Are we that fucking old?
Yeah.
God damn it. Alright. I'll take it.
It's the Canadian, after all.
Yeah.
It's alright.
Let's see. Links. Oh, yes. Ironically, I didn't actually think of this when I pulled this up as the game to play when I started. I was just like, let's just get something I can do in the background while I'm doing this and always have fun. But, hey, Slay the Spire. While the game debuted last year, was in early access, so, you can't really consider it as a game that actually launches until it launches. This game is still producing new stuff. The character I'm playing here, I don't have a whole lot of hours as you can tell, I'm still unlocking shit for her, still learning. But the Watcher is a great addition that they brought into the game. There is so much to fucking do. You can just beat the game as the characters. You can go into Ascension mode as the characters. There's a second path you can do to actually beat the heart of the Spire. And win the journey as that character. Of course, you're going to start over again because of the fucking roguelike. It's not an in-depth story that you got going on here. There's people, they're climbing a fucking tower, and you want to kill the tower. And you're building your cards through your roguelike play. You are just gathering up a perfect hand for you to beat the shit out of all the bosses that come your way. I can't recommend this game enough. It is so much fun. I have wasted hours on this game. Let's see, yeah. On Steam I have 121 hours, and on Switch I think I have another 30. And if you know me well enough, if I spent 150 hours on a particular game in 1 year, it's a good game. It's what I keep coming back to whenever I just have time. So, yeah. Now, from a game without any real story to a game with all of a story, my number 2 spot goes to Control. Holy shit. Playing Control is one of the most fun adventures I think I've had in my video game life. They kept throwing things at me that I didn't expect, and it only gets weirder when you get so far into the game that everything, all of this weird shit that they throw at you, starts to feel kind of normal. I will say that I had a little bit of a hamstring for myself. I played it at launch on the PS4, which was not recommended. They've definitely fixed it since then. At the time, I could not recommend it to another person playing on console, but my computer here is a potato that is only capable of really playing Slay the Spire, and that's about it. So, control on PC was not happening.
That's alright. They ended up fixing it for the most part on console.
Yeah, they've not only fixed it, but they've added in additional content. They've given you a lot of post-game stuff to do, and they're still coming out with 2 DLCs, and this is literally the first time in my life that I am going to buy a DLC for a game and play it afterwards and play the additional stuff. Never done that before, never seen a reason, but here we are, 2019. Free Quiet, hello! It's good to see you. We are just talking about our favorite games of the years so far. Before I hit my number 1, though, I want to give you my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Because I said that, you know, a game has to actually have existed and be out of early access, I can't bring up Hades, and I won't tell you where Hades would have probably fit into all of this, but Hades is a game by Supergiant Games. They're the people that brought you Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre, which are all amazing games. And the one thing that's been missing from roguelikes all of my life is a fucking story. I know Binding of Isaac has a story, and I'm the kind of person that looks at the work of Ed McMillan and tries to juice and squeeze all of the little tiny drops of joy out of it. But I have played like 80 hours now of Hades. It's out on Steam, so you can get it now without punching small kittens in the face by buying off of Epic. I can't tell you how much I recommend that game. It's good. But of games that actually exist, River City Girls is the best beat 'em up I have played in 20 fucking years, since God Hand.
Yeah!
That game is so good. I will say, if you are not in to the original gameplay loop of River City Ransom, River City Ransom is here in full fucking glory. If you don't understand how that game works, and you don't want a game that works exactly like River City Ransom, for better or worse, don't play River City Girls. But if you're like me and you fucking have a hard-on for River City Ransom, River City Girls is better, because there's fucking great, just, the writing is so hilarious and dumb and wonderful all at the same time. River City! Play, watch games.
River City. City by the river. What?
He's sitting at his computer just giggling like an idiot. He can barely take a drink of his coffee.
You play as 2 teenage girls that just want their fucking boyfriends back, and they are willing to beat the asses off of everyone in the city till they find their boys. It is good times. Play River City Girls. It's not on my top 5 list. It's not as good as everything else, but especially the couch co-op is fantastic. But Death Stranding, I want to like it more than I did. I am so glad it exists. I love Death Stranding. I really do.
But
oh, the writing is so bad, and I have screamed at that game, what the fuck are you talking about? I have never screamed at a game's narrative before, but it is so fucking full of itself and dumb at places. Sometimes it's beautiful and majestic, and other times I just have been punched in the dick by Hideo Kojima, and I'm mad.
real quick, Trav. What if I told you you can turn your poop into grenades?
I know! You can
No, I know
piss
you can.
on ghosts!
Oh, I know
And
you can.
that is the joy. You can piss on ghosts and tell them to fuck off. And sometimes the walking around is super fun. Sometimes the walking around, they tell you to walk from one side of a mountain to another in Death Stranding. This game
Get there.
has some high highs and some low lows. Sometimes it's great meditation feel, and the bosses are some of the worst. They were not fun. They just took time and waiting, and they're dumb. They're bad, bad bosses. Thank you, Magdalene, for the bits.
They are okay. Look, they are bad bosses. I am not disagreeing with you on that. They are terrible bosses. It literally looks like the thing that you get from like ordering the Inside $300 special edition thing, like the flesh ball with all the whatnots flying off of it. It looks like that. Just I threw some tar on it and like, hey, what's up? We have a new character. Let's what? We have the tar. Now we threw some mustard on it. New character. Like, I get the complaints with Death Stranding. I do. I really, and I'm not trying to argue anything here. It's just so, I don't know. It's.
But I have to give an honorable mention. I enjoyed myself. I am so glad that a game like Death Stranding exists, because we need more unpolished AAA games out there. I am sick of every game looking the goddamn same, and Hideo Kojima had the fucking balls to put out a game and go, here, it's fucking weird, eat it. I'm fine with it. I like it, but it's not a game of the year. What is a game of the year? Number 1. Bloodstained! Bloodstained is my game of the year. Knocked it out of the fucking park. It is the best Castlevania game I have played in goddamn ages. It is so good. I have not 100%ed a game in forever. Bloodstained. Game of the year. One of the best games of the fucking decade. Not the game of the decade. We'll get to that later. But if you don't play Bloodstained, I am sorry for you. It is so good. You get to be a magical fucking girl that goes around in your goth Lolita with your fucking crystal tattoos of your body and slam the shit out of weird enemies. And there's even, you can beat up fucking Shovel Knight. It's fine. It's good. David Hayter is there, and you beat him up too. You beat up the moon. It's fun.
Are you sure you didn't just play Smash? This sounds like Smash.
I mean, I might have played a little bit of Smash Brothers, but I promise I played Bloodstained too. It is worth the time and the effort. Put yourself in to Bloodstained and play it. Oh,
And hello, Giant Pie.
Hey, John Pie.
Hey.
This is what Joan and Josh bought me for Christmas. This is mine now. This is the talking stick.
So it's
I want it for work.
That's why I have
actually-
it here for work. But go ahead, Wonder Boy.
No, that's cool. It's really interesting that you put Bloodstained at the top of your list because, like, let's be frank, like going into the year, there was not a lot of confidence in that game. Or,
Oh,
like,
I
just based
didn't.
off, like, yeah, because like the delays and the like, I know they had the 8-bit game or 8-bit or 16-bit game come out that was pretty good, but like wasn't
it's like
lighting everything on
B-tier,
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like some of the stories around the development of it were like very like, maybe back off a little bit on expectations, but everything that I've seen mixed with your reaction to it, like I want to pick it up now. I really hadn't been following it too close, honestly, just because, you know, I backed off of it in terms. I cooled a lot on it, but hearing your reaction to it and seeing some of the gameplay stuff, like going back and looking at it now for this purpose, yeah, no, like you might have sold me on it
I'm not even that big of a Castlevania nerd. Like, I did buy into the Kickstarter, literally for the fuck Konami. That was about it. But yeah, I am so glad that I did because I have not lived inside of a game as much as I lived inside of Castlevania this year while I was playing it. It's that good, and I can't wait for Bloodstained 2 whenever that happens.
Hopefully it does.
But that was my top 5 and me yelling into the void. So we did the top 5 good. We should do the top 3 bad now.
I only
Sorry.
have one just because it crushed my hopes so badly.
Oh, well, you know what? You only have one. Maybe
Yeah.
you should go first.
Yeah, give us your one.
All right. My worst game of the year, and it's because I waited 2 fucking years for it. I had all of my hopes on it because, as we've already established, I'm a tabletop nerd. Paranoia, Happiness is Mandatory.
Oh, God.
So fucking pissed. I started playing that game. I got about a half hour into it and was in love. Went on my very first troubleshooting mission and still liked it. And then I hit the hacking minigame. And with that, Paranoia can fuck right off. I don't know if it's been patched. I have not gone back to it. I literally picked this up on day of release. And the hacking minigame is a great thing in concept. In execution, you either need to have 4 hands or superhuman reflexes or both. You get these little letters that are coming down from the top of the screen, and you have to either click or arrow key over to where those letters are going to hit first that match up with the letters that are already there and hit space. If you are a split second too fast or a split second too slow, it doesn't work. And you literally have like 15 seconds to do like a 5-letter word for this. And they don't show you the instructions on how to do it until after your timer has already started. The instructions are hidden over in the left-hand corner. So it needs to be fixed. If it's fixed, I'll give it another try, and I might take it off of my worst game of the year. But this is something I have been looking forward to since it was announced. And the fact that it just crushed the hopes, it was rip the dream so hard, so fast, because the game itself is great. The comedy, the dialogue, everything in it is exactly what you had hoped for in a video game version of this. And then it died. And the thing is I'm like, okay, so I'll fail it until I have no more great, like no more of the material that I need in order to make this happen. And then it'll just say, okay, yeah, good try, and we'll move on. Yeah, no. Because it's still technically tutorial, you have a member of your team that goes, oh, hey, you're out of materials. Here's some more. It's like, well, fuck. So I got stuck there. I have not been able to advance past it. I need to see if it's been patched. And then if it has been, then bonus, you get off of my list of shame. Which, currently you're the only fucking thing on there. If it hasn't been fixed, well, god damn it.
Entirely fair. You know what? Maybe I should go with my list next, because I think Brian's, honestly... Brian has a really good list. I really like it a lot.
There's a lot of stuff I didn't like. But I limited myself to 3, because that was the rules, apparently.
You
3
are
is
our
the
salty
rules.
man.
Mhm.
You are very salty.
I'm like
And we
beef
love you
jerky.
for it.
I've licked him before. I can tell you myself, he is very salty.
I sweat a lot.
All right. Let's go with my 3 biggest disappointments of the year. My number 3 is Soul Seraph. Soul Seraph is a game Sega put out, which was supposed to be the spiritual continuation of ActRaiser, and I am an ActRaiser boy. That was my fucking jam in the day. So I was so excited to play Soul Seraph. Instead, Soul Seraph is a shitty tower defense game that they sold to me as ActRaiser. Thank you for the pits, Lady Merowyn. I was mad that I spent $20 fucking on this useless game, brought to you even by amazing devs. These people brought you games like Rock of Ages. I thought, how could you go wrong? They went super wrong with this game. Soul Seraph deserves to die in a fucking fire, and I want my money back. We'll get back to another I want my money back, but my number 2 disappointment is a company that I used to fucking love. I used to lick the ground that Blizzard Entertainment walked on. Don't
Maybe
anymore.
you shouldn't lick the ground anybody walks on. But that's just me.
Look, don't you come into my stream and kink shame me.
I'm not kink shame. Oh, damn it. Okay. Called out.
Regardless. Yeah, okay, maybe I shouldn't, but, like, Blizzard was one of the few companies to be like, you know what? There are at least nice boys there at Blizzard Entertainment. They're not nice boys. They are assholes. They fired 800 people in one day. Those fucks. And to top that off, you know, hey, what's the freedom of speech? We'll just, take this boy's prize money. Sure, they give it back. But it was still a dick move, and they're still suspended for both the player and the casters alike. The casters that didn't even do that. Coop, it was primarily Activision, yes, but Blizzard also was part of the layoffs. A lot of them did come from there, but they also came from parts of Activision, such as King, Rada. Basically, Blizzard has become Activision over the years, and that is where my anger is. Blizzard is no longer Blizzard. They definitely are Activision Blizzard. They are one and the same in their gross.
You're not wrong.
Anthem. We got
You
another
wait!
boy. We got another
You
boy.
wait, Giant Pie. We'll talk about Anthem. Sorry.
But my number one, speaking of I want my money back, I want my money back for this shit. This was a mistake. Why did I do this?
I love that you broke out the box. You just shoved the box into the camera. I fucking love it.
I bought the Founders Edition because I love dumb technology and I especially love failures. And I was like, fuck it. Everything fall over today. That's fine. I'm mad right now. I do have the Stadia. I at least thought I would have some fun fucking around on this new technology. I could, get the feel for it, and I like collecting bad shit. I also, with it, get a Chromecast and a really good controller. And the funny thing is, it isn't the parts that I expected to be bad. Stadia plays fine. Don't let the people tell you out there that, oh, you play the Google Stadia and you feel the lag. And it's so bad that way. No, that's not it. It's not it. They have like 9 games. Their free games have been 2 Tomb Raider games. Not the new one. The one that came out in 2012 and 2014 on last-gen consoles. And Farm Simulator.
But How's that
The
Destiny?
rage is fantastic.
They did.
that-
They
how's that
did
Destiny?
give you Destiny, but even with Destiny, there are 2,000 people playing Destiny. How do you play an MMO when there is not an M for your MMO? It is not multi. You start running out of people to play with real fucking quick. So unless they get some real good games next year that I haven't played, no, Wolfenstein Youngblood does not count. Putting Red Dead Redemption 2 on yet another console does not count. Give me a game soon that is worth playing.
Go about that Thumper.
Again! I own Thumper twice! Why should I buy Thumper for yet another thing? I don't even need a new IP. I just need a game that maybe I haven't played yet and might want to pick up.
Or like a current IP.
Yeah, just something that came out this year. Just this year is all I'm asking for.
There is one game that did come out this year that is available for free.
Yeah,
Samurai Showdown.
Samurai Showdown's on there, but man, that might be the best game, honestly, that they give you for free. And even that's okay. I don't have anyone to play it with, though, because nobody else I know has Stadia, so I'm just playing a fighting game by myself. The hilarious thing is, just a week ago, they bought an indie dev studio. So, good fucking luck, you boys.
God, who did they buy?
I don't remember. Google purchase. You know what? I can just go to GameIndustry.biz and tell you real fucking quick here. Give me.
They bought Typhoon
Typhoon
Studios.
Studios. There you go. They made Journey to Savage Planet. And has people from a whole lot of AAA games in their rankings, so I guess that's there.
What's interesting is that game has not been released yet, so more than likely coming to Stadia.
Yeah.
Journey to the Savage Planet.
Cool. Well, there's a game that I finally need. With a team size of 26, I'm sure they had a whole lot of work to put into it.
We'll find out.
So there you go. Those are my big 3 failures of the year. The Google Stadia, Blizzard Entertainment, and shout out to people giving death threats to Epic Games. That was going to be my number 3 until I remembered that Soul Seraph exists.
Real quick, I think you should take John Borg's advice. Just get good at Samurai Showdown and then dominate everyone whenever Stadia hits it big.
Dominate who? I have no one to play with.
No, you train now, and then whenever it gets super popular next year, then you dominate and you go to Evo.
Mag, you might be correct. Maybe it will be like an Undertale or a Slay the Spire where a small team makes a brilliant game. I'm really hopeful they do, because there's a lot of talent, honestly, in Typhoon Games. I'm not mad at Typhoon Games. They're fine. They're good boys. They've done their due diligence.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right, Brian, the king of salt boys.
Oh, Jesus. All right, I guess I'll hold on to it. Which is odd. I will say this. It's ironic because I really hate salty food.
Mhm.
But for some reason, I'm just like, because I have like so much pent up anger, and I over the years have become more and more comfortable with just fucking being brash about it.
Mhm.
I am now fucking Salt King, apparently. Yes.
Yeah, but
so,
see, that
okay.
balances out because you don't like salty food because you are salt.
All right, you know what?
You have enough.
I'm cool with being like what Babel turned into. I'm rad. I'm into it. Anyway, so we got the 3 biggest disappointments of 2019, right? Okay, I have to start off very on brand, and build up to the main event here. Number 1 for me, on this list. Not number one is in the top disappointment, but the first one on this list, I do bring the seasoning, John Borg, is WWE 2K20. Okay, look, I know that I talk about wrestling a lot on this show, and I know that I'm probably the only one in this community that super is into pro wrestling games. But and honestly, 2K the 2K WWE 2K series has not been good for a while. It wasn't good even whenever THQ still had the license. It wasn't good whenever Yuke's was making the game. And the fact that it's now dropped onto 2K20, like, and this game, nothing has gotten better. Nothing has gotten better at all. It has only gotten worse. The player models are worse. The faces are worse. The glitches are fucking legendary at this point now. The gameplay is terrible. It is stunted and annoying. The only redeeming quality for this game is the creation tools, and even then, there's still, now that you have a game like Fire Pro out there that offers, I would argue, a more robust set of creation tools than this game does, I think that it really doesn't have that leg to stand on anymore either. Then you throw in a story mode that has literally like The Rock running for president, which I'm all for the dumbness that is, but that overarching dumbness and like fun element of it does not translate at all, because you have to, whenever you actually play through the thing, because you still have to play the matches. You still have to do arbitrary, dumb little things in matches to qualify and move through stuff. Like, it's just so terrible. It's not even terrible in the fun way. It's so boring. Everything about it is boring to annoying. There's nothing that moves beyond boring in this game. It is so bad and frustrating to see that the company with the most money in pro wrestling right now still relies on a shit combat system and relies on a development company that does not feel any need to improve upon itself. Like, it is so frustrating. I have not bought a WWE video game in almost a decade because they have been that bad, and they continually prove me right every year. 2K20 is probably, I don't know if it's the worst one out of them, but it is in the fucking running. It is terrible. Okay, number two. Number two, I don't know if I'm going to have as much salt, because I don't know if it actually elicits any kind of reaction that is on par with salt. Fucking Days Gone.
Okay.
Days Gone is such, oh my god. You ever like looked at a sous vide steak? Not tasted a sous vide steak, but just looked at it. Mm-hmm. This piece of like gray meat that's just there on a plate. You smack it down and there's a little bit of juice that flies off, but it doesn't look appetizing at all. It looks so gross. It just looks like gray is healthy, but gray is nasty. It's just right there. Completely
and Magdalene just started cringing.
There you go. Look, hey, sous vide steak tastes great. It looks god awful, and guess what? Days Gone is a fucking sous vide steak, but without any of the fucking flavor. It is so drab and boring and repetitive. Like, I cannot tell you this game. Like, it takes the excitement of what zombies used to be, or I guess what they call them freakers in this game. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, see, I get it. I know you finish it in a pan, but they didn't finish anything with this. They did not put any kind of sear on this shit. They just slapped it together down to Bend, Oregon, and fucking threw it out the window because we thought that we needed another fucking anti-hero on a motorcycle trudging through the fucking forest because my wife died and we can't explain the logical fallacy of why we can't all get on the helicopter at the beginning of the game because one of us has to arbitrarily stay by. The whole thing is fucking contrived. The gameplay is boring. The story is literally like hardly there at all. Like, there's nothing exciting about it. And the thing is, they sold the entire game based off of the excitement of these like giant waves of freakers. But that hardly even plays into the stuff in the game. Like, yeah, that stuff shows up, but it is nowhere near as like fucking fear-inducing as that trailer or that gameplay demo describes it. It is fucking out there garbage.
That bad, huh?
It is no. It is just. And that's the thing. It's just. It is. It's hard for me to go beyond just garbage because there's not much more that the game gives me. Like, you want to talk about writing in a game? Can we go back and revisit the fact that there's actually a line of dialogue in this game where a woman at her wedding states, "I hope you ride me the same way you ride let me back that track up. I hope you ride me just as much as you ride your motorcycle." Who the fuck says that?
Apparently, this woman.
No one! No one fucking says that! No one ever says that! You know who says that? People who write shitty motorcycle B movies from the fucking 70s. That's who. But at least those movies are fucking fun to experience. Unlike this fucking bullshit.
You sure you're talking about, what, Road to Hell Redemption?
Oh no, Road to Hell Redemption is his own fucking thing. That's just fucking rape fantasy bullshit. Anyway, hey,
Not wrong.
go back and watch it. Fucking like, ooh, oh, the fancy man. Their only value to me is I can fuck you. Anywho, so yeah, that's enough time for Days Gone because it doesn't deserve any more of my fucking time. It's boring, it's drab, it's fucking garbage. I feel bad saying that because the people down at Ben Studios have put out good stuff before. They had a long lull in between before this Days Gone thing came out. And it feels like this game feels like that lull because they put out a game that capitalizes on a horror trope that lost its luster around season 4 of Walking Dead. And this game came out way the fuck after that.
All right.
Okay, so with all that out of the way, main event. Y'all asked for it earlier. Fucking Anthem.
Oh, that's gone well, hasn't it?
Anthem very well might kill a studio that we all have fucking loved for the majority of our lives.
I mean,
that's not hyperbolic.
no.
No, like BioWare is in dire straits. If this new Dragon Age does not hit, like, it might be done for. It might even be done for even if that thing hits, because Anthem was such a fucking flop. And the thing is, like, the game itself is boring. The game itself is repetitive, and like I'm glad that I finished the base game because I at least like played through it to the end, like, because I am a glutton for punishment, I guess. Like, I can't not see things through to the end. But like, it's painful because there are elements in that game that I can see what they were going for. I can see the kind of like traversal styles and the combat styles and the different class systems and how they work together in this like giant cooperative world that they were trying to build with it. I could see where the good ideas were thrown in there, but then you blanket that, or you like surround that with a story that goes nowhere, and you set it in a very uninspired jungle setting, basically saying that this entire planet is one biome in ways. The boss fights, the raids are not as intriguing. They tacked on a bunch of the social stuff afterwards, and even then it was fucking bare bones as bullshit. It all speaks to the nature of how this game was developed. Like, this game was in development hell from the get-go and went through so many different changes and revamps and fucking tear it down to the foundation and bring it back up because it wasn't in line with what EA wanted it to be, or they weren't on the same timetable that EA wanted it to have. Like, this game suffered every ill that we have been bitching about for the past 5 years in the video game industry. They wanted a games as a service without knowing how to make a games as a service, and EA was not giving them any tools to help them learn how to do that. And because of it, Anthem fell flat on its face. Its player count dropped drastically after release, and they basically abandoned any future plans for it, even though there are reportedly plans to revamp the game again. I said, you have lost so much of the player base and so much of the people that were willing to give BioWare the benefit of the doubt, because BioWare is BioWare. Like, you lost those people. I look, I was willing to give these people another chance after Mass Effect Andromeda. And Mass Effect Andromeda was my number one worst game. Like, I don't know if we had the podcast then, but like, but it would have been number one if we did.
Started yet?
Yeah, it was not. It was the most disappointing thing that I played that year, because it trashed something that I feel like defined a decade, defined a lot of how I view video gaming as I matured into video gaming. You know, like it showed me what kind of stories you can tell and what kind of experiences you can build, and then you take that and you throw it into whatever Andromeda the fuck was. It was fucking annoying, and so. But even with that, I was willing to give Anthem a shot because like this could be interesting. I get to fucking cosplay as Iron Man and run around and fucking stab shit and shoot fuckers. Like, yeah, that's fun. That can be fine. But it doesn't feel like a BioWare game in any way, shape, or form. Like, it is just one of the most annoying gaming experiences I've had because it doesn't resemble anything. It doesn't even resemble them taking the BioWare like approach to storytelling and putting it into a game system thing. It feels like the mishmash that its development cycle was, and that is a damn shame because Anthem could have been so much more.
Yeah, there was so much that it could have been, but instead you got just a weird fucking game out of it. It doesn't feel like a real plan was ever put together here, and that's the biggest shame of it all. Like, they had a lot of great ideas, but it was changed like 20 times.
Well, that's the thing. Like, yeah, they had plenty of good plans at some point. All of those went out the window because EA got their hands in on it. Like, EA wanted to do what they did, and then they ended up mucking up the entire thing. They muddied it, and they threw it out there knowing it wasn't ready, knowing that it was what it was. And they tried to Rainbow Six Siege it, which I think a lot of these games as a service, like we've talked about this before, but it's what I think every games as a service aims to do now. Mm-hmm. They aim to launch something that they can hang their hat on for a little while, even if it is bad and has a bad reception from the audience, and then they try to steadily improve on it. So 6 months down the line, they can say, "Oh, look, the game's gotten this so much better. You should try it again." Like, that is a terrible approach to developing a video game. That is so counterintuitive.
Oh, absolutely.
And the fact
everyone's like, "Oh, but No Man's Sky pulled it off." Fuck off.
That's the thing.
Barely.
No Man's Sky pulled it off. Rainbow Six Siege pulled it off because their teams like really dedicated to figuring out what those games should be and then tailored them to that. They tailored it to the audience that has been looking at it and telling them what it should be, and married those ideas with their own of what that game should be. Also, that's 2 games out of how many fucking games that have come out that have been able to pull that off. It's not the fucking model you should be following.
No.
They are anomalies in this whole fucking ecosystem.
I entirely agree with you. You get one chance to launch, and a lot of these people in the industry will say, "Oh, well, yeah, but like we have a roadmap, and it'll be better down the road." Sure, maybe it'll be better down the road, but how much of your player base is still going to fucking care at that point, and they're going to remember when you launch your next game?
I'm just gonna throw this right now, Kilvoren. Look, I know BioWare had its own issues in there. EA had some influence over there. I've read the reports, like I've seen the sources and stuff. Like, I'm not putting this all on EA because the mission given to BioWare was something that they fundamentally did not know how to build. So like, it falls on all parties, but EA had some hand in this because they have a track record.
Oh, they absolutely do at this point.
Yeah.
They've destroyed the goodwill that, like, I remember when EA really stood for something. You knew you were getting a quality game and you saw EA on the box. But I think that was like 20 fucking years ago at this point.
Pretty much. I mean, even their sports games are bad now. Madden was not good this year.
But
and I see all the talk about FIFA over here too. Like, don't get me started.
Yeah, FIFA and NBA 2K are both just goddamn awful and miserable failures. The whole lot. So that's good. It's fucking great. You know, I mean, there was a time where I loved a good, especially baseball games. I played a fuck ton of those. Nobody wants those anymore, though. It's kinda cool.
I played a baseball game earlier today.
Brian.
I did.
I mean, I believe you. I don't understand, but I condone and I sympathize with you on that. I I don't know. I just really miss the days when you had these way grandiose fucking games of baseball, and now it seems to be every game that comes out is, hey, you can swing the bat at the ball. Isn't that fun? You can, pick from this team of players and, make sure that your RBI percentage is up. And I don't fucking care. I want to hit the ball, and when I get it into the stadiums, I want there to be fireworks and people cheering and women swooning and all of that good happy stuff. The end.
Oh, I have a baseball game for you. Then we'll talk off air.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that gives us our 5 recommended game of the year and our 3 worst things that happened this year, according to myself, Lady Merowyn, and Wonder Boy. But of course, it's not just the end of the year this year. No, my friend. It is the end of a decade. So we have to crown our unique personal champions of the 2010s.
And I feel really bad because I couldn't pick just one.
Well, then, if you want to, if you have multiples that you can't decide on, you can go first, and then we'll decide. We'll debate amongst ourselves which one from this listing should go.
All right. So first up, we've got. I know I always get the name backwards. Stories Untold by No Code and Devolver Digital.
Okay.
The game was fucking awesome. It was horror done right. It wasn't shock horror. It wasn't like there were a few little jump scares. Mags agrees. Playwatch agrees. I played through the entire thing. It gave me absolute panic attacks at times. But the styling of it, the fact that it was done like old school Twilight Zone episodes, and I mean, it was just so well put together. So incredibly well put together. If you don't have your hands on this game, please get your sweaty little paws on this game. It's so good. I am a chicken shit when it comes to all things horror. I made it through. It took me 2 attempts, but I made it through.
Nice.
Also on my list is Stardew Valley.
Okay.
I have I just keep finding myself coming back to this game. I don't know why. It's really simple.
It's me and Slay the Spire. It's a fucking simple game that I will keep going back to over and over again, so I feel your pain and sympathize.
Yeah, it's just, it brings me peace and it makes me happy. And the fact that it was originally devved by one guy and he put out this incredible game and it's still getting updates.
Well, I think that team's expanded since then, from my understanding.
A little bit. I think they're up to 3.
3's all you need, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're fucking making a go of it.
Fair.
And then my other top game of the decade, and I just looked up my playtime on Steam. Holy shit. I'm at 1,092 hours in the last year alone.
Ooh. Holy fuck.
And that would be Warframe.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yeah, but I mean, big ups, Canadian company, relatively indie dev.
Mhm.
The Railjack update has been so much fun. And yeah, Playwatch, I think you've almost doubled mine. Um, but I mean, you get to be a space ninja, and it's free. And honestly, the quality of the game, I'd put it up there with a lot of the AAA releases right now. Like graphically and story wise, it takes you a while to get into the story, but once you do, you don't really want it to end. And it's still continually being updated. Like, this is a studio that, like, we saw it during the Game Awards. Everybody was waiting for the Empyrean update.
Mhm.
And they're like, soon, soon, soon. And then Rebecca Ford hops on during Game Awards and goes, hey guys, remember how we said soon? How about now? You know, and they're a really cool team. Like, they actually give a shit about their players. They do their primetime streams, and if you play the game on whatever system they're featuring on primetime, they'll go, hey guys, we're running a mission. First 3 people to message me gets to be in the squad. And so you play with devs. It's just so much fun. Yeah, Rebecca Ford, who was on the Game Awards, she actually hit Forbes top 30 under 30 this year.
Hmm.
So that's kind of awesome.
Is there a way to see what your most played games are, or like your most hours in game are on Steam?
I think in the new library that they launched, I think you can look at that.
We'll figure that out.
We'll look around.
Yeah, why not? I'll look it up in the meantime. But those are yours that you can choose from?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, if you were giving that list to me, I'd probably play Stardew Valley, but that's a me thing. I don't know. But it's a good
I would
listing.
say I would say Stardew as well. I think that Stardew kind of reintroduced that style of the farming sim that could also have the story elements of it. Like, it basically reinvented Harvest Moon in a lot of ways, and I think that's a game that kind of fell by the wayside in past console generations. So seeing somebody come back to it and build one that's actually on par, in some ways surpasses what Harvest Moon did, I think is super powerful to see.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I've played Harvest Moon. I did not last very long in it because it was micromanagey to the extreme where even walking around takes up your energy that you desperately, desperately need.
Mm-hmm.
Stardew at least took that out and went, explore. Go look. Hey, there's a cave. Go, have fun. You know?
Be free. See the world.
Real quick, Travis, I did find where you can sort out games by your playtime.
Okay.
So just go to your profile and
Yeah.
then go to click games underneath your stuff.
My profile. Okay.
And like you see your badges in
Yeah.
your games.
Yeah.
Click games. And it automatically sorts by playtime.
It's thinking. Well, if it's sorting by play, yeah. Slay the Spire, 123 hours. Civ 5, 82. Final Fantasy 7, 58. Rogue Legacy, 33. Yeah, not a lot of hours. Most of my games.
Yeah. Like, I'm sitting at 1,092 for Warframe, 198 for Rift, 96 for Stardew, 73 for Conan Exiles, 72 for Armajet.
Good lord.
Rad.
I game a lot.
Fair enough. Brian, what is your game of the decade?
Real quick, I feel compelled to say mine now since y'all did.
Alright.
I have over 1,800 hours in Fire Pro.
Woo! Truth in advertising.
745 in Rocket League and 91 in Fallout New Vegas. Those are the top 3 for me. All right. So my game of the decade. My game of the decade is Gone Home.
Okay.
I think that, for for as much degradation as the walking simulator genre gets from a lot of communities, I think that it is one that honestly caters more to narrative than a lot of other styles of games do.
Mhm.
And Gone Home was the introduction of that in a lot of ways, and was also the pinnacle of that in a lot of ways. I think that without Gone Home, you don't necessarily get some of the more indie darlings that you have had over the past 5 to 6 years. Yes, Firewatch. You probably don't get Firewatch if Gone Home does not succeed the way it does, not just commercially, but also in the experience that it delivers. I think that Gone Home is a game that plays off of horror tropes in some ways. Because I mean, you start that game off, you think you're walking into something grisly. You think you're walking into something that is going to be super destructive to your psyche in a lot of ways. And then the big twist in there, it takes it in a different direction, but it still messes with your psyche because it speaks to marginalized communities in a way that other games haven't until then. As a queer person, seeing a queer narrative like that, one that I can personally relate to in terms of like how the characters are feeling, how they feel they're being perceived by the world around them, by the people that they love the most, and the feeling of being othered in that way and not being understood in that way, really spoke to me. And and that for that reason, like Gone Home is a game that I haven't really gone back to play a ton since that first go through, because of how powerful it can be. And yeah, it can get hard to get through at times personally, but like it's a story that needed to be told, and I think that it showed that we were at the place with gaming that those stories can be told effectively, and they can be told, and the audience is ready to accept those kind of stories from a video game. It was the maturation of the genre in a lot of ways. I know that it wasn't the first one to do that, but it was the one that solidified it for me. Yeah, like that game, I haven't played anything as powerful as Gone Home in a long time. And there have been other games that have made me just fucking all out bawl, but like, yeah, Gone Home will always have that place in my heart, and it will always and like, one of my honorable mentions, I had a hard time going back and forth on who to put in this, but one of my honorable mentions was Mass Effect. Like those are the two. Those two will always stick with me. Those two will always be latched onto my gaming heart, my human heart, honestly, because of like what they did in terms of like the stories that they tried to tell and the stories that they effectively did tell. So yeah, Gone Home, super super important.
I admit I'm one of the few people, and I definitely seem to be in the minority that just didn't get a lot out of Gone Home personally. It never did anything for me, but I have known so many people whose opinions that I respect far more than my own that loved it, so I don't know. I think that ways I'm just kind of the one who's fucked up on that, but
I don't think you're fucked up. I mean, I think it's just it speaks to it speaks to a certain community more so than others, I think.
Mhm.
And like, I think you can recognize the power in it without liking the actual game. Because yes, some people do not like the like tedium of a walking simulator. They don't like, they want video games to be action, and I get that. But even then, like if you play Gone Home, you can still feel the power of it, whether you play it or whether you even just read about it or read about what the story is trying to convey. Like, you can still get something out of that, which I don't think that is the same for a lot of other games in the genre. A lot of games as a whole, so like I think that even if you don't have the predilection to have those narratives affect you the way that Gone Home affected me or something like that, you can still recognize it, and the fact that you do recognize it means that your opinion, like, it's not fucked. Like, don't be down on your own opinion of it just because you didn't like the game, but understand why people like it. That's perfectly fine. It just didn't hit you the same way, and that's okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
I just don't want you like getting like down on yourself about that shit, because I'm like, I get it. Like, I like queer boy likes the queer game. I get it. It's whatever.
All right. For me, I am a huge sucker for when it's when the game story and the actual gameplay seem to team up together to both fight you at the same time. Is possibly the best way to put it. My favorite games have to have both a interesting story that also makes me give a shit about what I'm actually doing in the game. Slay the Spire notwithstanding, this game has zero fucking story, I know. But still, I mean, that's why I like games like Control hit me so hard. Or even looking at Ring Fit Adventure this year. The way you play it really gives a lot to what you get out of it. That being said, I have never cried like a baby more to any game in my entire life and wanted to kill fucking everything at the same time to The Last of Us. That is my favorite game to the 2010s. Man, the part where you have to do things that you don't want to do, and the game is just making you sit there and say, hey, the things you want to happen won't happen unless you do this. Everything just comes to a standstill. You gotta do it. You gotta be the gross person now. You are doing this. And just, it's... That game is the best agony I think I have felt playing video games. And that is amazing. Like, that in God of War last year kind of did the same thing for me. When you get that weapon in the game to kind of make you feel like not only is, the story there, but what you're playing, how you're playing, and what you're doing really means something to the story. It's not just some mechanics, you're not just pressing buttons, you're actually doing something. And in that, The Last of Us, to me, changed the way people tell single-player narratives to me in gaming these days. We don't get a lot of really big single-player narratives anymore because, it's multiplayer stuff seems to be the large thing of the day, so that's why games like having Death Stranding to me meant a lot, because you could have this single player game that doesn't have any of these repetitive mechanics that I've done a million times, and The Last of Us tried something very new and bold, and I'm both excited and afraid to see what they do with that, because that is a lot of setup, and I'm hoping that they spent all of this time together to put together the game to really follow up with how much emotion and depth they put into the first part, because if it can't follow up, it probably had better not exist at all. As far as I'm concerned. But we're here, so we're getting it regardless of what I personally think. And I'm excited and afraid for it, but at the same time, yeah, it definitely made it my favorite game of the last decade, sitting there on the couch at 5 o'clock in the fucking morning because I can't put the game down, because I have to know what's happening to my people, my good people. yeah, you just don't get that a lot, and that was there. So that's my game of the decade is The Last of Us without a single question in my mind, honestly.
No, it's super interesting to kind of look at the games that we put at that spot because like yeah, I think the this past decade has been one where a lot of the messaging within video games and even branching off into like fan communities around the industry, the real messaging has been that single player is dead,
Mm,
or single player is dying, or multiplayer is the only thing that really matters. You know, and that's true for certain genres, and that's true for certain games. You know, but a lot of that messaging is, you know, we all know that it's false.
right.
But the fact that so many of the games that we are celebrating as the best of a 10-year period are like single player focused experiences that rely on narrative and character and not necessarily on solid mechanics, even though those are present in all of the games. They all execute what they're trying to do mechanically to a T. Um, you know, like that speaks to how like this misnomer within the industry that, you know, it's not true. Like these are the types of games, there are plenty of people that still like these types of games, and yes, the people that, you're right, Coop, a lot of the people that have these feelings, these desires to have those qualities in their games do tend to be older, but I think that um those games still exist for younger audiences too, and they still can have that same impact. Like I know that there are plenty of, I'm sure I could drop Gone Home on like a queer high schooler and they would play that thing and they would be just like, oh fuck, not even a queer high schooler, fucking just a regular ass like cis het straight high schooler, they could probably get something out of that game.
Mhm.
Because there's, who hasn't had that feeling of like, oh, my parents just don't understand my unrequited love, you know? Like yes, having the queer narrative in that adds a whole different element to it, and a whole other book of emotions to unpack. But like at the end of the day, like these games, they speak to us as human beings, not just as players, and that's why having an interactive medium like video games be able to tell these types of stories and develop these kinds of people that make us look at ourselves differently, people that make us look at who we want to be, who we shouldn't be, and honestly make us take a look at the qualities in those people that we don't want to be and see them in us and force us to kind of like reevaluate ourselves. Like that's the sort of stuff that I really love pulling out of this medium. It's the reason why I love talking about this medium. It's the reason why I spent 15 fucking minutes comparing Days Gone to a fucking sous vide steak. Like that's the reason why I'm so passionate about this stuff, is because these things are, they're fucking world building
Mm.
and they are life changing in some way.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like, and yeah, this show and the people who listen to it definitely skew to an older audience. So there is something to be said of like my niece fucking loves Undertale, loves the shit out of that game. But I don't think that she's the standard because you know I then listened to my nephew, and it is all about that Fortnite because his friends play it, and that is the most important thing to him, and that's also valid. You know, if he wants to play what his friends are playing, makes goddamn sense to me. I would have done the same too as a 15-year-old, and hell, I did as a 15-year-old. But still, I don't think that it's impossible to get their interest with these kinds of games still. Um, like I said, my niece fucking adores Undertale. It's not even one of my personal favorite games, but I'm glad that she likes it because you know it's an interesting story-driven game and I sometimes wonder, are we really getting to a point where we might lose this? You know, except for in indie games. Because, like Merowyn, her favorite games are indie games, and you can kind of see why. You're more likely to get a story that's going to tell you something with an indie game. Rather than AAA.
I don't think you need the AAA market to tell these stories. Like, I think that the fact that we have as many indie games on our lists, not just of the decade but of the year, and it's like all this other stuff, like there's a reason why. Like they're able to tell these stories that need to be told that the AAA people are not either willing to tell or don't think they're marketable enough to tell. And I think that as long as you have a healthy indie market, gaming will be just fine, because the people that need to find those stories will find them. Like, there's a reason why Undertale got the fan base that it did. Somebody played it, somebody said it was really fucking rad, and passed it along to the next person. And they just kept passing it along and passing it along and passing it along. Like, that game was a word of mouth machine. You know, and that honestly, like, in today's industry, if you're not AAA, that's what you need. And yeah, there's going to be some stuff that falls by the wayside that is just as good, but doesn't have the same level of popularity because it doesn't have the marketing machine behind it, or doesn't generate the same buzz. But you're still going to get a good amount of stuff that speaks to what you want out of your experience playing something. And we don't have to have AAA to like rely on them for that.
We've definitely done a lot of rambling tonight, and I want to thank everyone who came today. Just to reiterate, as normally would here, we have our Discord, links in the doobly-doo and all that good stuff, and our chatbot talks. We talk about this shit literally all the time because we're huge goddamn nerds that just believe that, hey, here's a medium of cool shit. So it's actually been really nice to sit down and just talk about these things and just go, hey, these are the cool games that I liked. And even though, like, the games that you guys like differ almost completely from the games that I like, that shit is still pretty fucking rad. So yeah. This was good.
Although I did have a little bit of a whisper from Magdalene, and I kind of want to bring it up.
Okay.
And I know I'm going to catch you guys both off guard with this.
Okay.
What's your most anticipated game of 2020?
Oh, Lord.
Looking to the future.
I'm going to shit on everything that I just fucking said, and you're going to look at me. And you're going to go, that's the game that you're most anticipating for the year 2020, and I'm going to fucking stand by it, even though I am selling my goddamn heart to the man.
Is it Doom Eternal?
It is not Doom Eternal, no. It is, in some ways, worse than saying Doom Eternal.
Oh, God.
Not that I think it will be a good game, but there is a 14-year-old Travis out there in my heart of hearts that couldn't afford any other game and beat Final Fantasy VII 4 times, sat there, finished off Ultimate Weapon. I am so excited for Final Fantasy VII Remake, I could shit myself. I could just shit everywhere.
God damn it. Don't shit everywhere, please.
I will do my best to not shit everywhere, but that is how excited I am. And man, I know that this is buying into the man telling me, hey, rebuy this thing that you have played before, and hey, take a look at your Steam counting. Oh, it's the number 3 game that you played on Steam because you came back again and played it.
God.
Even though the game is honestly not that good.
Jesus Christ.
So I am so excited for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And you may say to you, Travis, I know how excited you said Last of Us made us, and isn't Last of Us 2 coming out next year? It is. It's definitely coming out next year, and yet I'm still more excited for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
This is a tough thing to answer. Because there's definitely like more than one. I would say I don't have a definite number one with a bullet for this, but Doom Eternal's up there just because I adore the new Doom and I want more of it. And yes, I think like everybody else, like Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that I am very much anticipating, and I would be very excited to get my hands on at some point. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of things inside of it that make me angry. But I would say like focusing on like games that really wowed me when I first saw them and made me actually want to pay attention to them. Would be a couple of indie games actually, Spiritfarer and Way to the Woods. Those two are both coming out next year, and they both got they got a little bit of coverage during E3 this year, and both in just their trailers gave me something that made me want to really get my hands on them. Like both of them, they look like they have the same story elements that I like in games, but also like a lot of emotion in there. I don't know, they just speak to me. They just speak to me in that way. And then I guess there was one more that kind of intrigued me, and that would be oh god, I just lost it. I had it written down somewhere. Yakuza 7. There we go. Yakuza 7.
Hell yeah.
I am a sucker for the Yakuza series, and I am all over that. Also, shout out to Twin Mirror, that new Don't Nod game. I don't know a lot about it right now, but Don't Nod, they haven't really turned in a bad game yet, so I am curious to see what that is.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, and with the backing, they actually have the money to make the kind of game they want to now. So, I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see what they can actually put out now. Will it be great? Who knows, but...
Yeah. Also, on the remake train, that new System Shock remake is supposedly coming out next year also. So
I have the beta for it, and I'm afraid to touch it.
So we'll see.
If one of Marilyn or Wonder Boy, if one of you guys want it, I can give you the code.
Yo, we'll talk after.
All right.
That was the first shooter I ever played. Like, I went straight to System Shock. I didn't do Doom. I played System Shock first and then Doom 2.
I never played System Shock as a kid, so like going back to it now, it feels ugly and gross. So that's why I backed it, because I want to see it with mechanics that I can actually wrap my brain around. Because I can only watch people play System Shock. I cannot play it myself.
It was creepy AF.
Oh yeah, it is.
Which is probably why I don't do horror games now.
Oh, Coop, I remember Rise of the Triad. Sometimes I wish I didn't, but I did play that as a kid too. Borrowing off of a friend of mine who actually brought it into school. Like a weirdo.
I know for next year, I'm looking forward to Cyberpunk. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I don't want to put my whole heart into it like I did with Paranoia, only to be let down. But I'm one of those people, I will watch a really cool sci-fi series, and then they'll go to this like market or whatever, and it's like, I want to explore that place more. No, why are you leaving? No, you need to turn left. I want to see the thing. And so this seems like it's going to finally give me the chance to actually scratch that itch and be able to explore all the things I want to see.
Sounds good. Yeah, I get it. I am not going to get into Cyberpunk until it gets full journalist reviews. I have to hear from them first, because I have so many just questions. So many questions, and I'm unsure if they can really deliver on what they're promising. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I saw what was it, a half hour worth of gameplay that they released,
Hmm.
but it still wasn't finished product. So I don't know how much has changed, what got kept, what's getting the boot, and I'm cautiously optimistic just because you guys can tell from my list, I don't do AAA games at all. My computer can run
No.
them,
Mine cannot.
but I don't play them.
Hmm.
Like, I think the last AAA game that I bought and played was Skyrim Remastered. And that's why I bought my PS4.
Ooh.
Right? So, like, this, I just. The AAA industry has killed me way too many times over, and I don't want it to just do it again.
Completely understandable. Ooh, Giant Pie. That is a 0 out of 100. Like, I know a few people who said that the series really didn't speak to them or resonate, but damn. That's cold.
Oh, Coop, yeah. Watch Dogs. The first one was terrible. The second one mildly approved. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic for the third.
Could be good, maybe, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of good ideas coming into it, but I do wonder if they'll be able to live up to those lofty ideals.
Watch Dogs is Ubi, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they brought us The Crew 2, and that was a clusterfuck. I can feel the rage emanating off of Playwatch from here right now.
I mean, he's right there. Of course you can feel it.
Oh no, no. He bought The Crew 2 direct from Mubi, played it less than like an hour, and tried to return it, and they went, "It's a digital copy. You're SOL."
Oh. Well, that's... I see what led him down his villainous path.
It was broken as fuck.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think that about covers all of our 2019 thoughts and hopes for the future, right? Are we missing anything?
No, I think I'm okay there.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this episode. So let's wind down, shall we? We'll save our Slay the Spire progress and move to an end title card and all right, one more time. Of course, we are on every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 Pacific, and some dumbass time in Australian time. I'm very sorry, Kelvin, for when you must be coming in at this time. Anyway, I am Slacker Kite. You find me at the youtube.com, or you find me at the twitch.com / CBGB Games, of course, El Merowin, and Wonderboy. What is your Twitter handle again?
At Wonderboy OTM.
OTM, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, at Wonderboy OTM.
There you go. These episodes, always, if you missed them, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com / CBGB Games. We don't have a Mr. Video Games for this week because it's not technically a news episode, even though we talked about some newsy type things. God, a lot of people came today, didn't they? John Borg, Free Quiet, Calvaran, Coop, Magdalene Vale. Oh, shitload of people came in today, and thank you all for talking with us about this decade. Next Monday, we'll be back to talk about actual news and shit in the new year. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow.
Bye, guys. Happy New Year.
Bye.